everyone. I'm Brittany Ezel, and I just wanted to come on and kind of give my take on Alyssa Danae's video from Wonderful Acts about how she thought she was going to be a career woman, but the Lord set her all the way down. Well, I thought I was going to be a stay at home mom, and the Lord was like, nope, I have other plans for you. So, yeah, growing up, I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I always thought I was going to have this large, huge family. I had like a little brother who was a baby when I was in middle school. My mom had him when she was 40, and so I would always take care of him. I would get him ready for daycare in the mornings. Like I made like a little playpen area with my bed and my dresser. So I just always wanted to be motherly. I just always wanted to stay at home. I wanted to homeschool my children so that I could be the one, training them up and imparting different life skills in them because, of course, children are at school all day and I wanted to be the biggest influence on their lives. Of course, I wanted them to still be social and do extracurricular activities and make friends outside of, being homeschooled. But I just always had a desire and I always saw myself being a stay-at-home mom, being a wife, taking care of the household, and that was going to be my thing. So fast forward, high school, I graduated. I went to college. I went to Spelman College. And I had lofty, like I had really ambitious career goals. At first, I wanted to get into investment banking. And then once I learned about management consulting, I wanted to get into management consulting. So I did. That's what I ended up doing when I graduated from college. I went into management consulting, had a great career, making good money, thought I was going to meet my professional man, my man of God. He didn't have to be in a professional type of occupation, but I just thought I was going to meet a man of God who was going to take care of the household and financially, and I was going to take care of the household physically within the household. But yeah, just kept going. Years just kept rolling by, and yeah, year after year, the relationships just weren't yielding what I thought they were going to yield. They just weren't aligned to who I felt like the Lord was calling me to be. Just weren't good matches. And just to give you some backstory, I'm from Atlanta and I live in Atlanta now. And so, yeah, and I'm not blaming the dating climate on Atlanta because obviously there are people married in Atlanta, but this is just my testimony and my story. But yeah, it wasn't yielding, okay? It wasn't yielding. So it's something that I, over time, like really, it was an area of disappointment in my life for sure. It was something that I definitely have taken to the Lord over and over again. But even beyond that, it's an area that the Lord has had to show me some things about myself to help me to realize and understand why I wasn't in the relationship that I wanted to be and why I wasn't in the place that I wanted to be in. So that's what I wanted to share with you all, and hopefully it can encourage somebody out there who is also in a similar position where they thought their life was going to, they thought they were going to be a stay-at-home mom and they ended up not being a stay-at-home mom for whatever reason or whatever it was that you thought you were going to do. So I would say the first thing was work. I wrote a book called Work Freedom last year. It's called Work Freedom, God Turns Burden into Blessing. And the whole premise of the book, the whole reason why I wrote it was because I was just mentally, physically just overworked. I was just working just because, and I wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied in work. And it really wasn't even necessarily about the type of work because I didn't mind the type of work that I was doing. I didn't even mind the people that I was working with. It was just that I didn't see myself doing that. So it was just kind of like over time, it was like, why am I still needing to do this? So anyways, it was an area of life that I needed to surrender to God. So even in me wanting to stay at home, a big part of that, I believe, was that I didn't want to have to work. Obviously, if you're staying at home, you're not working a traditional 9-to-5 type of situation. I just didn't want that for myself. So one of the things that the Lord definitely taught me was the importance of work. And it's biblical. Like you see throughout the Bible, even throughout the Proverbs, what the promises are for those who work hard. And I believe that God withheld me coming into that relationship where I could be a stay-at-home mom because if I had gotten into that situation where I quote unquote didn't have to work outside of course, taking care of the kids and cleaning and cooking, which is work. Hello, if you know, you know. But outside of that, I may not have been motivated to do other things. And the reality of the situation is that the Lord has called me to do other things. The Lord has called me to do different things as it relates to ministry. The Lord has called me to help others in their businesses and the things that they're doing. The Lord has called me to write. So there's all these things that God has called me to do. And had I been so focused on being a stay-at-home wife and a stay-at-home mother, then I would have missed out on doing those things. Because if I had gotten married young, I would not have been able to walk out everything that I've walked out these past several years that have gotten me up to this place. So that was one thing I feel like the Lord was really working on me about my attitude about work. And just honestly, if I could be honest, laziness. Like for me, again, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I can admit and say I had a lazy mentality. I had a very sedentary type of lifestyle growing up. I sat around, I watched TV, I played video games. Outside of school, I didn't really do much. So I did have some lazy tendencies. Okay, nobody in life who knows me in real life would call me a lazy person, but I personally could tell you I had some lazy ways about me. And I think too, I had a lazy mentality when it came to work, and I had a lazy mentality even when I thought about being a stay-at-home mom. So the Lord had to work on me and show me like, hey, no ma'am, those aren't the plans that I have for you. That's not how I designed or created you to be. And I think the beautiful thing is, so I'm actually friends with Alyssa Danae in real life. We're friends from high school. We're besties from high school. And the beautiful thing is, in me wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and in her wanting to be a career woman, we have been able to see each other's life experiences and talk to one another. So it's kind of like you get to see, all right, the grass isn't always greener. Not to say that what we have isn't good, but the grass isn't greener in the sense of, okay, I didn't have a realistic perspective of everything that this type of life would encompass. So we're able to talk to each other about these different things so that it's not like an idol, like, oh man, I wish I had been able to do this, or oh, I wish I had been at this place in my life. But we're able to kind of see that, yeah, maybe we didn't have a fully knowledgeable perspective going into what we originally wanted. So yeah, God has definitely renewed my perspective as it relates to work, and just it's something I continue to lay down to Him. I continue to read my book, Work Freedom, which is, I ultimately wrote it for me, but I wrote it for other people too, so that those who were burdened by work could be released from the burden by giving it over to the Lord. And I can say that I have been released from the burden of being worried about, being anxious about work and things of that sort. But it's like a continuous thing, right? Like it's a continuous thing with everything in life that we have to give over to the Lord. Like there's stuff that we lay down and then we go and pick it back up. So then we have to like go back and lay it down at the Lord's feet. So work is one of those things for me that I continuously have to bring before the Lord and be like, Lord, help me, Lord, help me to be more diligent. Help me to be more productive. Help me to do everything that you're calling me to do with this opportunity, because that's ultimately what it is. These are opportunities. They're opportunities to be a light. They're opportunities to make connections. They're opportunities. You don't even know where it's going to take you, whatever work situation you're in right now. So that was one thing that the Lord had to deal with me on. But then also in wanting to be a stay-at-home mom, like the Lord really showed me that being both a wife and a mother were idols in my life, things that I was idolizing, that I just felt like, oh, if I could just become a wife, oh, if I could just be a wife and a mother. It's like, it was like this golden calf, like this ultimate thing that I was going to be able to achieve. And once I achieved that, I would have made it. I would have been living the life exactly that I pictured, like the perfect life of being this stay-at-home wife and mother. And no, that's that would have, first of all, that would have put a lot of pressure on my husband to live up to this standard of I'm your everything. I'm your everything. This marriage, having these children are your everything. And I can tell you that's just not a healthy mindset to have. Like, yes, your husband, you and him are one. So whoever he is extremely important. But being one with him should complement everything the Lord is calling you to do, not take away from it. So it's like if you make somebody your everything and that doesn't include the Lord, then yeah, that's an idol. So now I understand that whoever I come into relationship with, like I need to be walking in the purposes that God has given me, and he needs to be walking in the purposes that God has given him. And those purpose, like my purpose and his purpose, need to complement each other. They need to go together. I need to be able to help him in walking out his purpose. And so yeah, I'm like, okay, Lord, I can see that. So that's an area that I have, laid down and surrendered to the Lord. And not to mention, I think I mentioned that I used to stay at home quite a bit to myself, so I wasn't the most social person. I've always kind of been, I guess, what you would call introverted, or even shy at times. I wouldn't say I'm shy anymore, but definitely back then I was. So I didn't really even know myself. Like I would watch TV all day, or I would play video games, and I was always kind of I would say I'm a bit of a fantasizer. Like I would daydream a lot. So I never really got to know like who is Brittany? Like what does she really want? What does she really like? And so, yeah, something that the Lord has helped me. And I would just say, even as recent as this year, I'm just getting to that place. And I'm in my 30s, 30-ish. I'm just getting to that place where I'm like, oh, wow, I'm getting to know, I feel confident in who I am, and I'm continuing to get to know myself. But even beyond that, like I'm getting to a place, and I've gotten to a place where I feel confident in knowing what I want out of a life partner, out of somebody who's going to be a husband to my children, who's going to be a father to my children, and a husband to me. And that's what I needed, because before it was just kind of like, all right, if you're interested in me, I'll at least go out with you. Or if you're just, if you're a Christian and you're interested, and, you seem to be doing something with your life and you have some ambition, like, okay, you're a viable option. But now that I know myself, it's like, okay, no, I know that I value so much more than that. Like I know that I value quality time. I know that I value like people doing nice, thoughtful things, and getting nice, thoughtful gifts. And I need more than just someone who is just a Christian, like for me, because the Lord has called me into ministry. Like I need someone who is going to cover me spiritually in prayer. I just have that strong desire. I want somebody who's going to read the word with me, who's going to pray with me, who's going to pray over our family, who's going to be led by God's Holy Spirit, who has the wisdom, revelation, and knowledge of God's Spirit within him, who goes to God when they need something because he knows that he can't do it on his own. Like there's so much that I've learned over the years about what I truly like, not even just want, like what is an absolute necessity for my life. And I would not have known any of that. I would not have gotten any of that revelation if I had got married like in my early 20s, which is when I wanted to get married. I wanted to get married like, straight out of college. I would have been good. Like, okay, now it's time to get things going. But that was not my story, because I needed to get to know myself, and I needed to get to know what I would actually want in a man. Because, I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was about 4 or 5. So I primarily grew up in a household where, I was with my mom most of the time, and then I was with my dad, during holidays and things of that sort, until I was with my dad full time. But either way, I didn't grow up in a household with both parents in it, and like a relationship, seeing how they kind of navigate and maneuver relationships and things of that sort. Like I had absolutely no concept or of relationships, of marriage, outside of TVs and movies, and maybe if you hear about it from somebody, which that's just very limited knowledge, and some people are blessed, even if they don't grow up in a household with that. They might have, an uncle and an aunt, or they may have other people that they're surrounded by, maybe within your church community. I can't say that I had that, because I didn't. So I've, over time, as I became an adult, had to be intentional about getting that knowledge, had to be intentional about having those conversations with people who are married, with, friends who have that wisdom and knowledge as well. But it's been a path and it's been a journey, and it was a journey that I needed to go on before I could say, okay, I'm ready for marriage. So yeah, and then the other thing, so it was, I needed to, change my mind about working. I needed to change my mind about my husband. And then the other thing God needed to do a work in me about was my children. So again, I think when you don't, how do I say this? I think for me, I just had such, like when you see babies, and everybody, they talk about baby fever. But when you see babies, it's like, oh, they're so sweet, they're so precious. Or even just like little children, it's like, oh, I mean, everybody doesn't feel that way, but I feel that way about them. And just, I feel that way about the thought of me having little extensions of myself. But I think the big thing that I really didn't think about or contemplate on, it's just like the responsibility aspect of it. And I know that might seem very naive, like, Brittany, how did you not think about the responsibility aspect? But I'm just thinking about it from the stance of, I have these little humans that I love. As long as we're able to care for them financially, I will be able to, in and through the leading of the Holy Spirit, pour into them. But there's just so much more to learn and to grow in when it comes to parenting. And that's not to say you can't learn those things along the way. But I think I didn't even have a concept or thought of like being a parent is such a huge responsibility. Like your child, like it's like they start off with nothing. Everything that they have is based on what you are putting into them and their experiences that they're having as a result of you parenting them and what you expose them to, what you allow them to participate in. So it's like now that I have that revelation, it's like I know even, prior to getting pregnant, prior to, having a child, that I'm going to be doing whatever I need to do to learn and to grow in those things that I would need to or should learn in order to be a good parent. So yeah, that was something I needed to learn. And I just feel like the Lord was showing me that, and the Lord was kind of, again, I'm a bit of a fantasizer, kind of taking me out of the fantasy land that I had as it related to being a mom and having children, because they are a blessing and they're a huge responsibility, not just financially, because I know a lot of people look at the financial side, but also just in raising them up and training them up in the right ways. And it's kind of like for me, like I'm still learning how to walk the right ways in and through the Holy Spirit, of course, but it's like I need to walk it out the way the Lord wants me to walk it out so that I can be a model to your children. Because what's the saying? Like, most things are caught, not taught. So it's like, okay, what kind of model would I be? Because I'm going to be honest, if I had been that early 20-something year old, pregnant and having children, I probably would have been, again, going back to the L word, lazy, and just laid around the house, not really being as intentional as I could. And again, this isn't to knock anybody's parenting or, how people do things, because again, everyone needs a break every once in a while. I'm just being self-aware of where I know I was at that time in my life. So I said all of that to say that I am very gracious for every lesson that I have learned to this point, so that when marriage comes along, when children come along, they're not an idol, and I'm not being idle in how I work and how I care for the household. Now, as far as being a stay-at-home mom, do I still want to be a stay-at-home mom? This is a conversation I've, definitely had recently in dating situations. And I don't know, you guys, men, drop in the comments whether or not you're down for having a stay-at-home wife. Ladies, drop in the comments whether or not you want to be a stay-at-home wife or a career woman. But yeah, I go both ways. Like, I feel like I said, God has called me to a purpose. So I know I'm always going to be doing the work of the Lord. Now, whether that looks like a professional 9-to-5 type of job, I don't personally think so. That's not the lifestyle I live now. I'm an independent contractor. I have my own business. And so I kind of see myself traveling. I see myself doing different workshops and sessions and speaking engagements and just book tours and things of that sort, which is work as well. So I see myself doing non-traditional work. And then when I have children, who knows, maybe I will take a break from that if that's what the Lord is calling me to do. Or maybe I will, minister in a different type of way during my season of having children. So that's where I am today. I'm thankful that the Lord is gracious, and it's never too late to walk into things that God has placed inside of you. So it's a desire in my heart, and I believe that the Lord has promised that He would give me the desires of my heart. So I still believe I could be everything that God has placed in me to be, whether it be a stay-at-home mom or not. And so, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. You can like, subscribe, share with somebody you know is also going through a season of waiting and maybe discouraged. Just know that God is still with you and He's working it all together. Go ahead and learn those lessons so you don't have to keep relearning them, so that God can bless you with what you desire, because He doesn't want to give it to you prematurely and then it not turn out to be what it could have been if He had given it to you when you were actually ready for it. I also just want to announce that actually me and my sis, Alyssa Danae of Wonderful Acts, we're starting a podcast. It's called Wonderfully Women. So I'm going to link the podcast in this video, or I'll link it in the description. So go over there, check it out. It's about building up women in their wellness, making sure that they are whole in Christ. And yeah, it's just about having real, raw conversations with each other and with other women about life. So if you're interested, you can go to that channel as well and subscribe and check out our podcast. Bye.